Good evening and welcome to the 49th, my God, 49 years, annual Our World Underwater Scholarship Society Award Ceremony. Yes. For those of you I haven't yet met, my name is Pat Stockhausen. I'm the New York coordinator of the Society, in part by virtue of being born less than a half mile from here. So I am a native of Manhattan. There's somebody around here who's a native of Brooklyn, but we don't talk about that. But it's especially important to put this in a larger context because the Asia Society, the Explorers Club, and our other venues this weekend are situated on unceded traditional lands of the Munsee Lenape, the Canarsie, the Wesquaskik, and the Siwanoi. The territory currently known as New York City originates from the indigenous populations that once inhabited the area of Mannahatta and its collective 5 boroughs within Turtle Island. Let this, our land acknowledgement, be the beginning of our return to unity, not just of each other, but to the awareness that we are truly part of the earth. Let us now walk with the knowledge that each and every one of us is a guardian of the utmost importance, as we were put upon this Turtle Island, not to seek dominion, but as caretakers, as two-leggeds to protect and to grow each other, to offer love and kindness. We are here to ensure that the gifts of earth, water, and air remain pure and whole. So let us be guardians of the earth, of the water, and of the air. And the four-legged, the flyers, the swimmers, the crawlers, the mammals, and the green. In this way, we honor the land which gives us life. We honor the lives and cultures forsaken, and we honor the prospect of renewed alliances. Thank you.
Good evening, and welcome to New York, the stunning Asia Society, and the 49th Annual Awards Program of the Our World Underwater Scholarship Society. My name is Vin Malkowski, and I am the chair of the Society's Board of Directors.
Good evening. My name is Dr. Carrie Nichols, and I am the president and a past scholar of the Society. As Vin said, we are excited to welcome you back to New York City to celebrate our 49th year of helping young people develop into future stewards of the waters of our world and leaders in society. We actually have talked about this a lot throughout the weekend, but many people don't realize that the Society is an all-volunteer organization, but I think everybody here now knows that. When you look around the room tonight, you will see an incredible group of people who are leaders in their fields, living remarkable lives that also contribute their time and give a lot of themselves to make all of this happen. Our achievements over the years have only been possible due to the hard work, dedication, and enthusiasm of our entire volunteer network. We hope that our outgoing interns and scholars will consider supporting us as volunteers in the future. I'd like to extend a big welcome to our incoming scholars and interns and all newcomers to the Society.
The story of the Society began a little over half a century ago in 1969, when Joyce Markstaller and Jim Mackey Smith formulated the idea of a Middle Coast dive show in Chicago. 5 years later, the Our World Underwater Scholarship was awarded to Mark Benson. Suffice it to say, there is more to this story. And if you do not know our history, you can find it in the digital program. The Society is fortunate to be able to attract some of the diving community's most talented and educated people. People from around the world, all connected by a common commitment to our planet's environment, research, preservation, and exploration. Regrettably, we do not have time to mention everyone by name, but the Society is indebted to all of you who have contributed your time, talent, equipment, hospitality, and generosity, both of spirit and finances, to the continued success of the Society, our scholars, and interns. I would also like to acknowledge Rolex, who has been the one constant in the Society's evolution from our first gathering in 1974 to supporting and encouraging our expansion into Europe and Australasia. Rolex continues to provide support and funding for our scholarships and this event as part of its Perpetual Planet initiative.
Sorry, we got a lot of pages up here. And now, it is our great pleasure to welcome back our returning 2022 scholars who will each share with us a film documenting and sharing their experiences during their scholarship year. They will be returning their Scholarship Society expeditionary flags that have been with them during all of their experiences over the past year. And this is a custom that we have borrowed from the Explorers Club. And these flags will now be rotated through the scholarship regions. North America will pass to Europe, Europe to Australasia, and Australasia to North America. Before I introduce our scholars, I first want to acknowledge our regional vice presidents who together with their coordinators make these scholarship experiences happen. Thank you so much to Vice President of North American Operations, Robin McVaden Parrish. Vice President of European Operations, Dr. Jade Berman. And Vice President of Australasian Operations, Stephen Andrews. At this time, I wish to introduce you to our returning 2022 North American scholar, Rosie Poirier-Mozung, returning Society flag number 16.
I'm excited to share with you my film, Oceans of Hope. People often ask me why I love the ocean so much, and my answer is always the same. Because the ocean is what connects us all. It is the lifeblood of our world. It moves, it balances, it gives, it takes. And right now, our oceans are changing, drastically before our own eyes, directly linked to human activities on our world that are affecting and changing the oceans as we know them, changing them faster than we can track. My name is Rosie Poirier, and I am the 2022 North American Our World's Underwater Scholar. This year has taken me on a life-changing journey across the world, working with people at the forefront of conservation, resource management, storytelling, dive exploration, and training. What I have learned in this year has left me in awe of the incredible force and importance of our marine ecosystems at the core of the balance of life on our planet. I went into this year determined to find solutions and to learn from communities that prioritize a culture of sustainable interactions with our oceans. What I found gave me hope. I began this journey by diving into fisheries management in the Pacific Northwest, where I first spent 2 weeks aboard a commercial halibut fishing boat with Tiare Boys and her fishing family. Fisheries often have a negative reputation in the marine conservation world, but with 1 billion people in the world relying on fish as their primary source of protein, it is important to champion well-managed fisheries. During our 12 days at sea aboard the Borealis 1, I was engaged in all aspects of fishing and taught about the methods used in groundfish management to reduce bycatch within the industry. I saw how each fish was recorded, weighed, and then checked by a third-party organization when landed at the dock, and how the use of individual transferable quotas in Canada was reducing the bycatch of the fishing industry. It gave me hope to see fisheries managed effectively and to spend time with those in the fisheries industry who are passionate about sustainable fishing. I followed this with a week at the Moss Landing Marine Laboratories, where I was able to explore food security through aquaculture technologies that are reducing pressures on wild-caught fish. Moss Landing is developing technologies for seaweed farming and harvesting and studying ways to reduce the carbon footprint of fisheries by shifting to herbivorous fish species and increasing the potential of closed-circuit aquaculture on land. These sorts of innovative technologies will improve food security and reduce the ecological impact of fisheries worldwide. Fisheries management is just one of the many pieces at play when it comes to managing our resources sustainably. Well-managed fisheries are often coupled with marine protected areas that ensure that areas of unique biodiversity, nursery habitats, and spawning grounds are protected. I dedicated my next few months to exploring MPA management and community science in the Coral Triangle region. Before embarking on this journey, I took the time to familiarize with my new camera rig. I was invited to join a macro photography course led by Reef Photo and Video, my generous camera gear sponsors. This gave me the opportunity to practice with my strobes for the first time and to learn about the theoretical steps of macro photography. This training came just in time as I embarked to the Philippines to join the Atlantis Imagemakers, a group of renowned underwater photographers and ocean creatives led by Marty Snyderman. We were on a 2-week journey to share photography knowledge and capture the beauty of the underwater world. I spent my days underwater developing my technical skills and capturing the personalities of the smallest creatures on the reef. When I left the Imagemakers, I joined the Coastal Conservation and Education Foundation in the Philippines island of Siquijor to join their MPA assessment program. CCEF had been able to implement a very successful MPA network in Cebu that was well supported by the fishing community, who were already seeing the benefits of marine protected area networks for increasing fish abundance in their fishery grounds. We discussed with many community members about the challenges their communities face with designing successful MPAs, addressing everything from fisheries to plastics to ecotourism. Programs like the one CCF offer are integral for opening the doors for active community discussions and tackling challenges collaboratively. From the Philippines, I traveled to Indonesia, where I was able to join the initiatives of the Coral Triangle Center in Bali. I spent a week on Nusa Penida Island, piloting a new monitoring program for reef health, conducting community surveys to analyze the use of marine protected areas, and using coral outplanting techniques to restore damaged reefs. We used transects and photo documentation with quadrats to record coral and fish abundance and biodiversity, contributing to a long-term dataset that helps assess the effectiveness of the marine protected areas. CTC works with the local island community on Nusa Penida to maintain the restoration sites, actively engaging communities in conservation management through science, technology, art, and culture. After Bali, I made my way to the heart of the Coral Triangle, where I spent 2 weeks in Raja Ampat, a collection of 1,500 islands with 117 coastal villages, with a well-established network of marine protected areas. In Raja Ampat, I stayed on Arborak Island, where I was invited by Gita and Anastasia to dive and assist with her community programming.
This community done. If you guys out there, you have to come here and you have to learn from these people about how to protect their area, how to keep it sustained, how to work together as community and as a family. So what should I say? I love Ocean because I know Ocean loves me too. Right?
Gita is an inspiring leader in her community. She owns a dive shop with her husband Marcel and champions sustainable ecotourism and conservation stewardship for our island people. Gita organizes a women's community program in Raja Ampat called Mora, with the intention to provide opportunities for island women across Raja Ampat to train in ecotourism and conservation. I worked with her executive team of women, and they took me to one of the communities they work with, where we ran a marine ecosystems class for the village children. During my time in Raja Ampat, I was so inspired by the Mora women, from their passion, their dedication to their homeland, and to raising the level of opportunity for other women to be leaders in their communities. I loved getting to see Raja Ampat through Gita's eyes as she shared her favorite dive spots with me. From manta rays to schooling jacks, to sea turtles feeding on jellyfish, Raja Ampat showed us its beauty, and I dream of returning again. As my time on the Coral Triangle came to a close, I began reflecting on the big pieces at play and what actions are needed on an international scale in order to address the environmental challenges of our time. This led me to attend the International Conference on Climate Change, COP27, in Sharm el-Sheikh in Egypt. It gave me my first glimpse of environmental negotiation on an international scale. The experience was both encouraging and discouraging, as I observed the balance of science, politics, nonprofits, corporations, and of communities whose natural world was changing faster than they can adapt. At COP, I had the opportunity to connect to a group of impact storytellers who were determined to use stories to effect meaningful change. What I learned at COP was that at the foundation of action is care, and that the fire for action is the belief that you can do something to change things, and together this creates hope. Storytelling is a powerful tool that brings people together, helps them to find hope, and directs them to the knowledge and tools to make a difference. This led me to pursue storytelling with the BBC. From Egypt, I made my way to Bristol in the UK, to join former Australasian scholar Yali Bosinger, where she works as producer at the BBC studios. With Yali, I was able to join the Blue Planet team for a few weeks during the story-building stage of productions and research interesting story leads with them. I was coached by the team to learn how to tell a story with effective story beats and how to edit shots in the most meaningful way. While at the BBC, I met and spoke with many inspiring underwater camera operators and creatives who encouraged me to pursue further dive training. My pursuit of skill building took me first to the Cayman Islands to learn freediving techniques from Kirk Kroc alongside Millie and Hannah, the two other scholars. We spent 2 weeks learning about the seemingly limitless potential of the human body to adapt to breath-hold diving, as we trained in the pool and on the line to dive deeper and longer than we ever had before. Kirk's knowledge about human physiology and his dedication to changing people's perspectives about the underwater world was immensely inspiring. Training provides an unrivaled opportunity to connect with the underwater world, and it inspired me to continue training through my scholarship year. When I next headed to Florida to do my Intro to Tech training with International Training, it felt a natural step. I trained on a double configuration for the first time with Brian Shreve and was humbled by the challenge of learning a configuration so new to me. Often with training, the more you learn, the more you realize there is to learn, and the curiosity doesn't stop, it only grows. I was then invited to the Bahamas to join Brian Kakuk to complete my cave diver course in the famous underground caves of Abaco. There are times in your life when new worlds are opened. New worlds you didn't even know you would love, and yet there they are, waiting to be discovered. When I first dove in the ocean, that was one of them. When I first entered a cave, there it was again. That sense of magic and wonder, of a door forever unlocked. The caves were mesmerizing, and I loved the vigorous training with Brian that included line drills, safety training, equipment troubleshooting, that allowed me to explore the underwater passageways of these historical caves safely. Training with Brian made me a stronger diver, and it was an honor to explore these underwater caves with him. I continued my training into the new year, following up with my OWUSS scientific diving course in North Carolina with Janelle Fleming and the Sand Tiger Sharks, and then to Florida to join Jennifer Mayfield for my rebreather training. Jennifer was an incredible instructor and put my fears at ease as I learned my most challenging configuration yet on the AP Inspiration. Learning to dive without bubbles was a whole new skill set, and I was glad to have such an experienced instructor to work with. With these new technical skills under my belt, I headed to La Paz, Mexico, to join the Applied Genomics Lab with Adrian Muenga Vega and his team. In the lab, they studied genomics using novel eDNA techniques that allowed them to determine biodiversity of an underwater ecosystem from simple water samples. This technology would make it easier to collect data for fisheries management. I was excited to see the applications of eDNA to improve our ability to monitor and manage fisheries worldwide. While in Mexico, I had the chance to explore the marine ecosystems we were studying in the lab when visiting the gray whales of Baja California and diving with the sea lions in the marine reserve of Los Islotes. As I continued to explore novel technologies for management, my next step of the scholarship year took me to join former scholar Arzukan Askin in the Maldives. Arzu co-founded Miaru, a collaborative shark research organization that focuses on studying the intersection of humans and sharks. With Miaru, I spent many hours above and under the water surveying tiger shark behavior through a combination of drone and underwater footage. Miaru prioritizes capacity building and invites stakeholders to participate at all levels of science. In Miaru's first field season, they were using deep-sea cameras to assess the shark presence in deep oceans and integrating AI to accelerate data assessment using remote camera technology. As my year was nearing its end, I was invited to join blue-green expeditions at the far reaches of our world as they headed into the South Pole on a dive expedition to dive the cold polar waters of the Antarctic. This felt like the final puzzle piece of my year. Although the polar regions are so far from reach, they play a huge role in balancing the climate of our planet, and the polar ecosystems are rapidly changing. The icy waters of Antarctica host an impressive array of seabirds and marine life. I shared the waters with penguins, whales, and came face to face with leopard seals as I did my first dives in sub-zero temperatures. My creative eye was inspired by the landscape in front of me, and I spent hours painting in between dives. On our final dive in Antarctica, we dove the site of an old whaling station at Deception Island. Diving amongst the whale bones was immensely eerie, but also very special. It was a reminder that things do change for the better and on a global scale. It was a relic of how far we have come and how far we still have to go. Before this year, what I had learned about our interactions with the oceans centered around the idea that humans are harmful to the marine environment, that to protect it, we must remove ourselves from the ecosystem. But what I learned during my scholarship year is that humans have always been and will always continue to be part of the oceans. We have the choice to either be a positive force in our world or a negative one, and we have the ability to either destroy our environment or make it stronger. It is up to us to decide the future we want to live. As for me, I have hope. Having worked where science meets art, where community meets ocean, and where people are working diligently for a better future, I believe we will make the right choice. I am incredibly thankful to all those who have supported this scholarship and my learning. Everywhere I have gone, I've found friends of the Scholarship Society who have generously shared their time to invest in my learning and growth. For the training, the equipment, the inspiration, the time, and the love shown, thank you. My ocean journey has only begun, and the tools I've gained have helped me direct my work meaningfully for the future. I am especially grateful to Rolex, who has sponsored this scholarship since its beginning, allowing me to be here today. With gratitude, your 2022 North American Our World Underwater Scholar.
Okay, I'm just going to ask you a couple of quick questions. So one is, what is your biggest takeaway from the scholarship year?
I think my biggest takeaway is that we're stronger with our communities, because I think a lot of what I learned during the scholarship year was about communities that were working together and were dedicated to elevating their future for the people around them. And that was what inspired me. What inspired me the most were really the stories and the people that I was meeting all around the world.
And one more, is there anyone you met with, or that you met during the year, that you plan on continuing to collaborate with?
I think you guys could tell from the film, but Gita. So I've actually been helping her project get some funding from TDI, SDI, and we'll hopefully be able to collaborate more in the future, and for them to have funding to be able to run their educational programs, and hopefully their first week-long workshop for island women to learn about snorkeling, scuba diving, and marine science. Yeah.
Or do you have anybody else you want to thank?
The same thank yous that were in my film. Honestly, the biggest heartfelt thank you to Allison and Anya. They were so there for me this entire year, and I could not have had better coordinators to work with, and they really made my dreams come true and understood the vision that I had in terms of pursuing the goals that I had for the year. And a huge thank you to my family, because I would not be who I am without them. And many of them have come to support this weekend, and I am really, really grateful, because everything of who I am is from the community that I grew up with, and my family is inseparable from me. So thank you for being here.
At this time, I would wish to introduce you to our returning 2022 European Scholar, Hannah Rose Douglas, returning Society Flag number 17.
Hello, I'm Hannah. This is my film Ocean Connections.
Our world is intricately connected by water. Covering most of the Earth's surface, the ocean is home to an incredibly diverse array of life. From the tiniest plankton to the largest whales, and everything in between. Our ocean is not just a collection of individual species. It is a complex and interconnected network of ecosystems, all working together to maintain the delicate balance of life on our planet. Our impact as humans is great, but so too is our potential for good, to protect and conserve what is left of our natural world. My name is Hannah Douglas. I am a marine scientist and diver, and the 2022 European Our World Underwater Scholar. Over the past 12 months, I've been on a journey of a lifetime. With the support of the Society and Rolex, I have learnt valuable skills to navigate, to study, and connect more people with our world underwater. In less than 365 days, I've completed 250 dives and spent a cumulative of 180 hours underwater, earning 12 new diving qualifications in waters ranging from 30 to -2 degrees Celsius. I have learnt more during this scholarship than I thought possible in a decade of diving without the support of OWSS. I've developed as a scientific diver and expanded my capabilities to be able to produce meaningful underwater research no matter the location. Underwater, I've learnt to wield a huge variety of instruments, from camera rig to a hacksaw, from an airlift to a cave reel, from a sediment corer to a winch. I've had the opportunity to work on 9 different scientific research projects, observing firsthand the subtle threads that weave the fabric of our natural world together, and how the ocean is often at the heart of this connection. I've learned how the very air we breathe is purified and regulated by the ocean. How no ecosystem exists in isolation, but all are linked by marine currents, the vascular system of our one blue planet. Science communication. The connection between the public and academics has long been an interest of mine. In the modern world, a central part of this storytelling process is with videography and photography. And for this reason, I was excited to combine my creativity with my scientific interests by learning how to use my camera setup, kindly lent to me by Reef Photo and Video. I was delighted to be able to work on my underwater photography skills with Saeed Rashid in Sulawesi, Indonesia. We focused on composition, lighting, finessing, aperture, shutter speed, and ISO settings. One of my favourite aspects of scuba diving has always been the magnifying quality of water, how everything appears larger or closer underwater than on land. It ties in with one of my favourite fields in science, microscopy. I have found that macro photography is the perfect celebration of this, helping to capture the intricacies of marine life in the field. It fascinates me to watch perfectly adapted creatures thriving in their natural environments. To continue my learning in the underwater world, I headed to Svarmina Zoological Research Station, the base of the Finnish Scientific Diving Academy, to take part in a 6-week occupational scientific diver training course. We began with first aid, O2 administration, and neurological assessment training, both on land and out on the water. Each day of the course, we covered a new data collection technique, both its theory and implementation. We learnt to use full face masks for an extra level of safety and for in-water communications. During the course, we also built up our independence on the dive boats, navigating the intricacies of the Hanko archipelago. Once we had mastered this and the other data collection techniques, we began developing and conducting our own research projects. We surveyed a seagrass meadow using OWUSS underwater GPS technology. We assessed growth patterns of tiny sessile epifauna on natural as compared to artificial substrates. In our last project, we looked at the impacts of increasing coastal wave action by examining blue mussel size distribution across various depth bands. Each of these projects had their own challenges, but each time we overcame these, there was a huge sense of achievement. My time in Finland was filled with growth and learning, not only due to the well-structured course and practical hands-on experience and the excellent instructors, but also to the magic of the location. I'm excited to have found such a beautiful corner of the world and to have met such passionate fellow science divers. At the end of September, I headed home to Ireland, to County Cork on the southwest coast, to begin my commercial diving training in BIM National Fisheries and Diving College. Commercial diver training is a legal requirement in many countries around the world in order to carry out work such as scientific, engineering, construction, maintenance, media, and even military diving. During the course, we covered everything from knot work and splicing to gas calculations and hyperbaric chamber operation. Every day began with classroom lectures, and then we headed out to the barge, a specially made training setup complete with hyperbaric chamber and diver control station, which mimics a diving platform used for underwater construction work. We learned about specific equipment setup, personnel ratios, and the legislation that governs commercial diving. Our instructors had a wealth of knowledge built up over many years working in the industry.
So when we looked at this, we have our gas supply A and B.
The course was a mentally and physically intense 5 weeks, but I learnt so much and took my first steps into an entirely new diving industry. Life as a scientific diver, underwater camera operator, commercial diver, or even technical diver is likely to bring you to remote places, and often in a limited team. In order to work safely in these remote places, the diving team often must have a diver medic technician among their number. This is a heavy responsibility to take on, but after speaking to divers who work in these remote areas, I understood that having this kind of training in advance could save lives. With this in mind, I travelled to DDRC Healthcare in Plymouth, England, to take part in their diver medic technician training for 2 weeks. We covered everything from advanced airway management, trauma management, intravenous and interstitial fluid infusions, pleural drain insertion, urinary catheter management, and even suturing, where my childhood love of embroidery finally came in useful. Our instructors were commercial diver medics, military paramedics, and their extensive knowledge and experience gave the topics we covered a vivid sense of reality, which I hope has helped prepare me to handle similar circumstances should I ever face them. During my undergraduate studies, one of my central interests was benthic ecology, investigating how life on the seafloor survives and thrives. Naturally, being restricted to shallow areas puts a limiting factor on any research that I can conduct. I needed to be able to go deeper, and for this reason I decided to pursue technical diving education. Heading to Spain, I met Ricardo Constantino and began GUE fundamentals training, where I learnt to rethink my buoyancy and trim within the mindset of technical diving. I changed my equipment setup and started diving with a long hose and twin set. The course challenged me, but I was delighted to complete it with a tech pass. After this, I headed further into the Mediterranean, to Malta, the base of TechWise Dive Centre, to take the PADI Tech Deep and Diver Propulsion Vehicle courses. I delved into decompression diving, finessing my twin set procedures, and learning to dive with several extra stages and gas mixtures. It was exciting to sense the possibilities for my future underwater career extend as we added more depth with each and every dive. I also learned how to manage several cylinders while acting as a safety diver for other tech divers. Never having used one before, I flooded my mask repeatedly by grinning at the beginning of the diver propulsion vehicle course. It was awesome fun. And I learnt how well they can be used for larger scale surveys and even marine rubbish retrieval. I'm delighted to have begun my journey into technical diving, opening up my range for research, both in terms of depth and distance. Having experienced so many different types of external diving equipment figurations, it felt challenging but also strangely liberating to consider how it might be to dive with none whatsoever. Freediving is a wonderful skill to have when what is being studied is only a few meters underwater or for pelagic fauna that passes quickly. I began my freediving journey this year with Adam Sellers in Indonesia. On a personal level, I found that the course directly linked with some of my own experience with yogic breathing, Focusing the mind and calmly controlling the breath, you discover a connection between the body and the breath that is only felt when you slow down and listen. I enjoyed my introduction to freediving so much that I was thrilled when offered the opportunity to further my training with Kurt Crack and my fellow 2022 scholars in the Cayman Islands. We learnt so much about the physiology of freediving and mechanics of breath retention. Kirk helped us each reach our own peak performance. This experience has secured in me a deep love of freediving. I'm excited to continue my personal development and who knows, maybe someday go on to compete in this arena. During my scholarship year, I was hoping to learn dive skills that would enable me to work in a wide range of ecosystems and habitats. Following this interest, I travelled to the cenotes of Mexico and undertook my GUE Cave 1 course with Annika Pearson. The course was very challenging, and it changed me as a diver for the better. There is something about feeling your way around a cave underwater, practicing for a zero visibility and out of air scenario that really makes you appreciate your dive buddies and your instructor's training. I learned about how cave systems act like the circulative veins of the earth, and I became fascinated by their ecology after learning how it might be possible to use the mapping of cave systems to install inland protected areas due to their direct connection with the ocean. During my year, I learned so much through formal courses, but I also wanted to put my training into practice and work with researchers in the field. In Chile, I worked with the Estación Costera de Investigaciones Marinas, whose focus is mesophotic reef ecology and investigating the connections between deep reefs and shallow intertidal reefs. I headed out with their dive team for some deep reef surveying and to deploy their BRUVs, baited remote underwater video systems. With another research group at the station, I took part in a series of dives to collect shallow acoustic monitoring devices with data on tagged reef fish, with a view to assessing, again, the connectivity between shallow and deep reefs. After these projects, I headed to the beautiful Falkland Islands. I joined a research team from the South Atlantic Environmental Research Institute, along with my fellow scholar Millie. We helped them to assess the impact of soil erosion caused by agriculture on the benthic ecology of the remote Hummock Island in the far west of the Falklands. Overgrazing of the peatlands on these islands has largely destroyed much of the native grasses, allowing the peat to dry out and blow away in the wind. It was striking to see the difference in species richness between areas where peat dust was deposited and those where it wasn't. We conducted multiple surveying dives every day and also deployed BRUVs and an ROV. While we were there, we were also tasked with helping to create a catalogue of images for a new underwater field guide for Hummock Island and King George Bay for the Antarctic Research Trust. I loved the opportunity to get to focus on some macro photography again. Although some locals were less impressed with being photographed than others. In February, I was fortunate enough to have the opportunity to join the Antarctic Climate Epic 2023 expedition with a particular hero of mine, Dr. Sylvia Earle. The aim of the expedition was to create a list of resolutions that could help mitigate the climate crisis, but also to facilitate several groups of researchers conducting science in Antarctica, and lastly to create a series of images and a short film about Antarctica in 2023 and why we should all care about what happens there. I worked with the cetacean team, monitoring the local whales and their feeding behaviours. Their research was multifaceted, looking to record as much data on the whales we passed as possible. "106 whales were seen, and several feeding hotspots were recorded. The team used various data collection techniques such as tagging and drones, and even underwater acoustic surveys. I also joined the microplastic research team, whose aim was to run a series of Newston net trawls in areas where whales were known to be feeding. Sadly, once back on the ship, each sample collected was found to contain microplastics. It's not known what the long-term impact of this will be on marine life in Antarctica. After all, we're only just beginning to understand how damaging micro and nanoplastics are to our own health. From other researchers and scientists on board the vessel, I also learned about the perilous state of the Thwaites Glacier, the high number of penguin chicks being born too late in the season to survive, and the increasing pressure on wildlife to compete with the industrial krill fishing. All of which may seem like far off and distant issues, not in our backyard, but it became clear to me how they are all issues intimately connected with how we live our daily lives. Although I hugely enjoyed the experience and feel remarkably blessed to have had the opportunity to witness this part of the world firsthand, I left Antarctica resolved to try and find ways to help improve the state of what might appear to be one of the most hostile places on Earth, but is actually one of the most fragile. The goals for my year were threefold. First, to improve my diving skills so that I could work as a scientist underwater in as many conditions as possible. Second, to improve my science communication skills so that my passion might be used to develop understanding in others. And thirdly, to study with researchers in the field and contribute to the marine science community through hands-on work. I'm delighted to say that because of the support and kindness of hundreds of incredible people, I've achieved my dreams this year. My eyes have been opened to the possibilities and new directions within the world of marine science, and I feel reinvigorated in my passion for working towards increasing global awareness and legislation for the conservation of our connected ocean. With just 2 weeks left of my scholarship, I travelled to England for one last course that, at the beginning of my year, I hadn't felt ready for. But after a year of dive training, I finally felt prepared to take the next step in my technical diving journey: rebreathers. From a research perspective as a diver, and even a free diver, the longer you can stay underwater and the deeper you can go, the more broad and encompassing your work can become. I felt like I was learning to dive all over again, which I loved doing the first time. I adored the sensation of diving a closed circuit without noise or bubbles underwater, and was humbled to get to work with the incredible Mark Powell. This training will be useful in the future, as I'm delighted to say that after this incredible journey, I've been offered to attend an International Masters in Marine Biological Resources, during which I'm planning to set up my own research projects using technical diving, while also taking further courses in global marine policy and governance, science communication, and public engagement. I'm delighted to be starting this next chapter after such an incredible year of growth and learning. I think, however, by far the most precious thing that I've been gifted this year are new friendships formed with those who have also committed their lives to championing the ocean. To those who this year have given me so much, I am forever grateful for your kindness, belief, and friendship. In the face of everything, you give me hope. How blessed I am to have been connected by the ocean to so many amazing people.
All right, Hannah, you get to come up. Okay, I'm going to ask you the same questions. What is your biggest takeaway from the scholarship year?
Biggest takeaway from the scholarship year. That's a really good question. I think I started this year having just finished an undergraduate degree in marine science, and it can, I think, be kind of devastating when you learn about these really cool, interesting new species that have these amazing adaptations, and then the next moment you learn how actually they're dying and, you know, humans are killing them and all this kind of stuff. And I think I had a kind of a sense of despair, and something that this year has given me has been this incredible sense of hope, I guess. Just by, I guess I've realized the amount of humans in the world that are so full of kindness and generosity and are so wise and are working towards all of these issues. I think this year that's probably the biggest thing. It's like it's given me a really deep sense of hope in the world, which is massive. So yeah, thank you.
And of those people that have given you hope, is there anyone that you're planning on continuing to collaborate with?
Actually quite a few. That's a really quick. There's several. So a couple of researchers that I met. There's one particular that is, funnily to my speech earlier, that is, he's a researcher in nudibranchs, and I've reached out to him and I'm hoping to maybe do an internship with him at some point. And others, the woman that's a researcher in Spain at the moment is where I'm going for my master's. She's actually already reached out to maybe write a paper together or something like that. And maybe hopefully continue working with people in the society and ed, and help maybe set up something more within Europe for internships, maybe in Europe. That would be really cool.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Is there anybody else you want to thank?
Everybody. Everybody. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, last but certainly not least, I'd like to invite our 2022 Australasian Scholar to the stage, Amelia, or Millie Mannering. Millie had the challenging experience of needing to defer her scholarship for 2 years as the COVID-19 pandemic evolved and lockdowns eased, and we are so grateful that she was able to experience her scholarship year at long last. And Millie returned scholarship flag number 20. Would you like to introduce your video?
Tēnā koutou katoa. I'd like to have a quick shout out to my family and loved ones back home, which are quite a wee way away, but they supported me a lot throughout the scholarship year, and this is a special film dedication to them. I spoke a bit about Kiuta Ki Tai in my presentation earlier, but I will present to you Kiuta Ki Tai, Mountains to the Sea. Enjoy. is Millie Mannering, and I was born and raised in the beautiful Southern Alps of Aotearoa, New Zealand. Descended from mountaineers, I grew up scrambling around these mountain peaks, canyons, and alpine meadows.
The glaciers that I grew up exploring have changed dramatically. These enormous forces of ice have shrunk at a remarkable rate. Some disappeared entirely. The rapidly changing climate is undeniable.
From the mountains to the sea, I discovered the magic of the ocean and completed my Master of Science in Marine Science. Learning to breathe underwater opened up a whole new world. However, similar to the glaciers disappearing in the Alpine, I started to notice things changing underwater. Passionate about ocean health, I was on a mission to discover how people are connected to the ocean, what changes are occurring, and what's being done about it. Sponsored by Rolex, as the Australasian Our World Underwater Scholar, I had the opportunity to meet with leading individuals across the world to do just that. Firstly, I needed to build my skill set, both above and beneath the surface. In the Cayman Islands, I undertook an intense freedive training program, led by Kirk Kroc, founder of Performance Freediving International.
I really enjoyed the physical and mental challenge of freediving.
I gained my intermediate freediver qualification and loved unlocking this new discipline to access the world of water. In preparation for remote diving operations, I wanted to learn more about dive safety. I gained an introduction to hyperbaric medicine from the Executive Director of the Catalina Hyperbaric Chamber, Carl Huggins. I really enjoyed advancing my understanding of diving physiology and leading patient treatment scenarios as I trained to operate the chamber. Next up was underwater training. But to develop my diving capacity, I needed to increase the depth and duration of my dives. Brad Turner, founder of Scuba Diving Tasmania, introduced me to the world of technical diving. In Tasmania, I loved learning to dive with a variety of equipment variations, including side mount configuration. I learned all about diving with different breathing gases and trained to conduct trimix decompression dives and blend my own gas mixes. This allowed me to access new environments, deeper habitats, which held rich biodiversity and abundance of life. Fascinated by the new opportunities technical diving offered, I was eager to continue to advance my skill set. In Ahmed, Bali, I trained to become a closed-circuit rebreather diver. Requiring a comprehensive understanding of diving physiology and application of my knowledge and skills, I found training extremely rewarding. I thoroughly enjoyed the diligent planning and preparation required to safely conduct these dives. I loved spending hours underwater and gained my Heliotrox decompression closed-circuit rebreather diver qualification.
Thank you, sir.
With a background in behavioural ecology, being able to document and observe marine life without any bubbles or noise was incredible.
But there is one team that inspires me through their use of technical diving. And my next adventure was joining them in the Caribbean.
I'm here in the beautiful Guadalupe to join the Under the Pole Scientific Underwater Exploration Team for 2 weeks.
Founded by Ghilan and Emmanuel Badu, Under the Pole combines scientific research and innovation with technical diving expeditions in extreme environments. Based on board the yacht Y, their mission was to investigate the unexplored ecosystems in the Mesophotic zone. Described by scientific director Lorenzo Bramanti as marine animal forests, the team deploy instruments, conduct surveys, and collect data to gain an understanding on how these ecosystems function. Conducting scientific dives at sites 150 metres deep requires extensive planning, support, and expertise.
It's in the southeast, it's on the sand. We take that aqueduct and in the same place we put the sediment trap out.
I found it really inspiring to see how technology, like closed-circuit rebreathers, can be used as a tool to access these remote, deep ecosystems, which we know little about.
I'm just about to head into the water to join their technical dive team during a decompression stop to check out what they've been up to. See you soon!
Nearly 90% of our oceans remain unexplored. My time with Under the Pole highlighted how essential it is to understand these unknown parts of our underwater world, and how through utilising technology and training, we can investigate them. During my scholarship year, I experienced how interconnected people are to the ocean across the globe. Working with the Swinomish Indian tribal community and shellfish biologist Julie Barber, I learnt how the connection to land and ocean is an integral way of life. We conducted surveys of wild clam populations within the tribal fishing grounds to estimate biomass and determine sustainable quotas for tribal and state fisheries co-management. In a historic moment, we built the first modern clam garden in the USA at Kukatali Preserve. Reviving this ancient aquaculture technique from thousands of years ago, we moved 33 tonnes of rock needed to create the wall. This form of environmental engineering is an ancient indigenous practice used to increase shellfish production and will provide food security in the face of climate change.
Welcome to Swinomish's new clam garden. We're revitalizing ancient indigenous traditions to protect marine resources for our next 7 generations.
And as a scientist working for the tribe, we strive to respectfully integrate that indigenous knowledge into the sustainable management of these natural resources.
Having experienced community connection to the ocean, I wanted to learn more about coastal resource management. I was fortunate enough to join the Coastal Conservation and Education Foundation in the Philippines. Through an integrated coastal management approach, CCF strives to conserve and manage coral reefs and other ecosystems, including its resources. In Betog, on the island of Siquijor, we conducted baseline assessments for a proposed marine protected area. Across reef, seagrass, and mangrove ecosystems, we investigated community structure, habitat, species composition, and abundance. I learnt the importance of sharing our findings and proposal with the community, as well as creating a forum for stakeholder interaction to query, debate, and provide opportunities for collaboration and mediation. Only through the joint partnership between different stakeholders, including fisherfolk, municipality, politicians, and community members, can the proposed BTOG MPA be established and upheld. It was very rewarding to unite different stakeholders in favour of the proposed marine protected area. Protection of not just this section of Sikihoa, but building to a network of marine protected areas and subsequently the resilience of our underwater world. From the tropics, my next adventure was in the far north. I arrived in Iqaluit, Nunavut, to work with the Canadian High Arctic Research Station in Ocean Networks, Canada. As polar research is a big interest of mine, I enjoyed learning about the ongoing research projects at the station, and I helped out with the Canadian Museum of Nature to investigate seaweed biodiversity in the area. Ocean Networks Canada have a community-led cabled ocean observatory in the bay, which I joined the team to help maintain, service, and redeploy. These series of instruments allows the community to gather scientific data and combine this with traditional knowledge to understand more about the dramatically changing environment. Warming in the Arctic is occurring 3 to 4 times faster than the global average, and climate change is having significant impacts on ecological processes and indigenous culture. As winter arrived in the north, I continued to pursue my interest of monitoring in remote regions. I travelled to the Calvert Island Ecological Observatory in Canada to conduct research with the Hakai Institute. In these remote areas of coastal BC, I joined the scientific dive team to identify, measure, and count sea stars. We monitored for sea star wasting disease, which has catastrophically reduced sea star populations. Consequently, sunflower sea stars, Pycnopodia, were nearly completely wiped out and are now critically endangered. This has wide-ranging implications for the decline of kelp forests on the Pacific coast, as sea stars are keystone predators. We swapped to gain an understanding of microbial communities living on Pycnopodia and their associations between healthy and diseased individuals. My time with Hakai highlighted the importance of gathering long-term datasets and continued scientific monitoring to understand ecological health. My next adventure took me to the coast of Nova Scotia. Here I joined the Students on Ice Foundation's Ocean Conservation Expedition, on board the Indigenous-owned icebreaker, the Polar Prince. I joined Dr. Claire Goodwin, a research scientist in marine biodiversity at the Huntsman Marine Science Centre, to conduct research on board. This involved scientific diving in the Bay of Fundy, which claims the highest tides in the world. Our aim was to create a genetic barcode library of Atlantic Canadian marine invertebrates. We conducted dives in a range of environments, with field and photographic identification of specimens recorded and samples preserved for future DNA analysis. Through scuba diving and grab sampling, our work focused on collecting as many different species as possible. Environmental DNA is a remarkable scientific tool which can be used as a monitoring technique to understand species composition in an area. However, it relies on a complete barcode library. I think it's amazing to be able to extract DNA from something as simple as a water sample. Helping to develop this non-invasive scientific method to study our oceans was inspiring. In the Falkland Islands, I joined the South Atlantic Environmental Research Institute. We ventured on an expedition to Hummock Island, a remote place full of wildlife. Historically used as farmland, sheep grazing has caused significant loss of tussock grass. This has resulted in accelerated peat erosion on the island, with the fine black sediment being blown straight off the land and into the sea. We assess the effect of peat erosion on the marine benthic community through a variety of methods. Diving in both the highly affected and pristine sites made me aware of the impact peat has on the kelp forest, biodiversity, and ecological health of the marine environment. I was overwhelmed with the curiosity of the marine mammals and the abundance of marine life. Through underwater photography, I helped to create a field guide to the area. It was inspiring to learn of the Antarctic Heritage Trust's work to replant tussock and restore the island. Collaborative projects, such as these on Hummock, are essential to our understanding of anthropogenic impacts and the rewilding of our environment. Next up, I was back in my homeland of Aotearoa. I joined Heritage Expeditions as an expedition guide in Fiordland and the sub-Antarctic islands. These unique islands, known as the Galapagos of the South, are home to many endemic and endangered species. A theme that continues to resurface during my scholarship year is how ocean health is inherently linked to the management of not only our underwater world, but also our terrestrial ecosystems. Animals underwater, such as sea lions and penguins, and subsequently their predators below, rely heavily on the state of the land. Restored from the effects of farming and with the removal of introduced mammalian predators, these sub-Antarctic islands are thriving, wild places. Through Zodiac tours, guiding onshore excursions, and lectures on board, it was rewarding to inspire and educate guests on the importance of these islands, the success of restoration, and how to continue to look after them. However, not all of our islands are fully restored, and there is an exciting opportunity to make Auckland Islands predator-free in the near future. With knowledge gaps remaining and further management protection needed, I look forward to furthering our understanding of how these ecosystems function and how best to protect them. My next adventure took me south, to Antarctica. Hosted by EOS and Joro Experiences, I joined Nansen Explorer to support a resupply of the NOAA scientific base on Livingston Island, as well as join an expedition along the Antarctic Peninsula and into the Weddell Sea. My time in Antarctica made me aware of the logistical support and high level of training and skill sets necessary to conduct research and operate in the Southern Ocean. I witnessed firsthand the magic and wilderness of this frozen continent and how species can recover and wildlife can thrive. With family connections to Antarctica, this personal experience reinforced my passion to understand and protect the Southern Ocean. Through sharing these wild places and communicating their importance, we can inspire connection and foster guardianship. During my scholarship year, sea ice fringing the continent was recorded at the lowest amount in history, a trend threatening many species, including the emperor penguin. The largest and heaviest of all penguins, these underwater experts can dive up to depths of 500 metres. However, it's their dependency on this disappearing sea ice for breeding that is causing them to be at risk of extinction. A declining trend of sea ice threatens the ecology of the region, as well as ocean circulations around the globe. A reduction in deep ocean water flowing from Antarctica threatens the collapse of circulation crucial for planetary systems. Through urgent climate action, or lack of, we decide the Emperor's fate and the future of Antarctica. Things are changing in the mountains, on the land, and in the sea. The reality of the changing climate and biodiversity crisis is here. During my scholarship year, I also learnt it can be inspiring and empowering. I've witnessed the beauty and fragility of the natural world, but I've also met with individuals and organisations dedicated to furthering the understanding and protection of our wild places. We can't look at the health of the underwater world in isolation. We are part of a living system and need to take responsibility for our role in it. For we all need to be kaitiaki, guardians of our environment, from the mountains to the sea. Ki uta ki tai, he taonga te wai.
You feel like you can stay forever.
Oh, Millie. We would want you to be left out. Come on, come on. All right. What was your biggest takeaway from the year? Speaking of the microphone.
Hello, everyone. Well, my biggest takeaway from the year, I think I've really learnt how small the world is. I think, especially through the society, the community, the incredible people that I've met along the way, I've actually worked out that there's connections all across the world, and through meeting so many of you kind and generous people, it makes the big, huge, scary world seem so much smaller, and that's pretty awesome.
And who would you like to collaborate with that you met during the year?
Everyone. No, I think it's probably a theme throughout my video, but I really enjoy the Antarctic and subantarctic areas. And in the next couple of months, I can't release too many details, but I'll be training for an expedition in the area with a bit of a different purpose. But in terms of collaborations, it is everyone, and if there is an opening, get in touch.
Is there anybody else you want to thank? Anything else you want to say?
I think I've said all my thank yous, but I can repeat them all again. Basically, it's to all of you here today and to the society, all of the people who have hosted me, supported me, been so kind, shared so much of their own stories and their connection to the ocean. The people I have met during my scholarship year have had the greatest impact on me. So thank you all so much.
Please once again join us in a round of applause for our 2022 scholars. Many years ago, Dr. Arthur Bachrach, one of our founding directors, championed the establishment of mini scholarships to supplement the existing scholarships. These soon became known as internships. First internships were awarded in 1995, and the program has continued to this day. Currently, the internships are 1 to 3 months in length and typically have a more defined focus in a specific discipline than the broader programming of the Society Scholars. Would the 2022 interns please come to the stage? Steve. Okay, last year we awarded 6 internships. Unfortunately, one of our interns, Lauren Bullock, the Dr. Jamie Lee King Environmental Education Foundation Marine Conservation intern, was unable to join us. Oops. With us tonight are Phoebe Cherney, the American Academy of Underwater Sciences Mitchell Scientific Diving Research intern, Ewan Arzu, the Dr. Lee Summers AAUS Scientific Diving intern, Kieran Alexander, the Dr. Glenn H. Eggstrom Divers Alert Network Divers Health and Safety intern, Aaron Kissel, the Divers Alert Network's Divers Safety intern, and Haley Shapanik, who was the National Park Service intern. Please join me in a round of applause for our 2022 interns.
Would the 2023 interns please come to the stage? Over time, our internship program has grown. Last year, during our awards event, we announced that in 2023, we would welcome a new underwater photography internship in honor of Paul Schutt, who is very involved in the society as a sponsor, host, officer, and director. Now, please allow me to introduce the 2023 interns of the Our World Underwater Scholarship Society, and they all get fancy framed certificates. So Jack Hamilton of the University of New Hampshire was unable to join us tonight, but he is receiving the AWS Mitchell Scientific Diving Research Internship. Jessica Garcia Pantoja of Universidad Autónoma de Baja California will be receiving the Dr. Lee H. Summers AAUS Scientific Diving Internship. Matthew Argame of St. George's University will receive the Dr. Glenn H. Eggstrom Dan Divers Health and Safety Internship. Sophie Rose Dalrymple of University of California, Santa Cruz will receive the inaugural Paul L. Schutt Underwater Photography Internship. Really making you do the laps here, Vin. Griffin Hoynes of the University of Washington will receive the National Park Service Research Internship. And finally, Carolyn Corley of the University of San Diego will receive the Dr. Jamie L. King Reef Environmental Education Foundation Marine Conservation Internship. Congratulations to the 2023 interns of the Our World Underwater Scholarship Society. And thank you to our tremendous team of volunteers led by Vice President of Internships, Claire Mullaney, whose hard work and dedication make the internship program a success. Of course, without our organizational partners, we would not have places for interns to go. So thank you to the American Academy of Underwater Sciences, Divers Alert Network, the National Park Service, Reef, the Reef Environmental Education Foundation, and Backscatter Video and Photo. And you can follow the interns through their blogs on the Society website.
The Society and Rolex, as well as all of our other sponsors and organizational partners, have joined to support educational activities related to the underwater world, all in the hope of creating the future stewards of our planet, whom we hope will solve the problems associated with the health of our planet and its occupants. Our strategy is quite simple. We invest in people. Tonight, we can feel very proud of our 111 scholars and 124 interns and all that they and the Society have accomplished. However, as we celebrate our 49th anniversary, just 1 year from our golden anniversary, we cannot rest on our laurels. We must look ahead to what the Society can accomplish in the next 50 years. We look forward to continuing our partnership with Rolex and all our organizational partners. While we are grateful for both the past and future support, the Society cannot grow its outreach on their support alone. We know that many, if not most, of you in the audience tonight have already contributed your time, talent, energy, and sometimes even money to the Our World Underwater Scholarship Society. As we look towards our 50th and beyond, please consider a donation to support the Society. You can scan the QR code with your phone or click the link in your program.
There's another way you can support the society and do some diving. Our friends at Blue Green Expeditions have set up a special trip to Missoula Eco Resort commemorating the 50th anniversary of the Our World Underwater Scholarship Society and the 70th anniversary of Boston Sea Rovers. Missoula is a private island resort and conservation center in southern Raja Ampat, Indonesia. Proceeds after costs will be donated to the Our World Underwater Scholarship Society and Sea Rovers to further support our missions. More details can be found at the website on the screen.
And now it is with great pleasure that I introduce our guest speaker tonight, Annie Crowley, known to many as Ocean Annie. She's an award-winning producer, underwater photographer, author, and speaker. Annie leads a program called Ocean and You to inspire children, educators, and families to be the voice for the ocean. Ocean Annie is a member of the World Women's Divers Hall of Fame and is a longstanding friend and supporter of the Our World Underwater Scholarship Society. Please join me in welcoming Annie to the stage.
So there's a mantra I have, and it's you don't have to be great to get started, but you have to get started to be great. And before I start my presentation today, I have to turn on the microphone behind me. And I have to just step aside here, and I have to have these three stand up. Please, stand up right here. It's so incredible. As a filmmaker, as a photographer, we watched them speak today, and they showed mainly photographs, and then they came before us so bravely and presented their films. They used drones, they used underwater cameras, they used iPhones, they used housed cameras, and they excelled at science and diving. They collaborated. This is truly magnificent, and we just witnessed your first film. Like, it's really incredible. Please, another round of applause for them. Truly, it's a magnificent world we live in. In our world underwater, we are all connected. So I'd like you to sit back and relax and think about this. Mark Twain said this: 20 years from now, you will be more disappointed by the things you didn't do than the ones you did. So throw off your bow lines, catch the trade winds in your sails. Explore, dream, discover. I wrote those words in my journal together with the quote, retired at 23. I was 23 years old when I learned to scuba dive, and I never looked back. I didn't come home for 4 years. I spent a year in Australia, a year in New Zealand, and 2 years in Indonesia before the internet. So it's really an incredible place. And so many of the stories that we hear, and maybe this will jar a memory from you, when you breathed underwater for the first time and you looked at your scuba instructor, and then you went to the ocean and you found home. Home is what so many of us feel when we find the ocean. And it's really an incredible place. Some of the places that we heard about tonight, Lembe Strait and Raja Ampat, I traveled with charts and a captain, and I would say, let's dive here. And to think that it's charted and that it's still uncharted and unknown on so many different levels, between frogfish and sea anemones and flamboyant cuttlefish, which are one of my favorites. And so we are united here together to talk about collaboration, the path you follow. I literally learned at 23 also how to follow signs. I walked down the street, it said learn to scuba dive. It was my first 2 weeks on a solo backpacking adventure, and I literally walked into the dive shop and said, I'm in. So no matter what path you're following, it's very important that the connections we make and the stories and the visions of the sea that we each hold are important to share. So thank you, ladies, for sharing your visions today with all of us. I'd like to take a step back and share with you where I live. I'd like to acknowledge the Coast Salish people. When you look at a satellite image, this is the Seattle area. Right here is where I live. When you look at a satellite image at a region of the world, you can see how the Coast Salish people who have been in my area, or I am now in their area, they migrated with the food from the ocean. They do not know the boundaries that we put upon land between the United States and Canada. How could we possibly think that ocean animals would know and understand the boundaries of our economic zones? It's pretty incredible to think about this. And when I look at a photo like this and I see the green, we're also known as the Emerald Sea because of the green, like we heard today, it's creating oxygen. And this oxygen comes from the phytoplankton, from the kelp forest, from the algae. And all of us must realize this and really think about this. Every breath we take, breathe in, you are breathing ocean. I say breathe, you say ocean. Breathe. Ocean. Breathe. Ocean. We cannot forget this. Do you know that kids are still taught that oxygen comes from plants and trees only? This is science communication at its best. We need to break down these walls. It's really so easy. Hannah, I put the slide in for you. I know how much you love nudibranchs. This is in my underwater backyard, and I feel like Alice in Wonderland every time I dive there. But when I see eelgrass, I don't just see the Malibu nudibranchs. I also see a carbon sink because the ocean also absorbs our carbon. When I look at the Arctic or any ocean, I know that it holds 98% of our water on our planet. When I think about flushing the toilet or drinking water, I know it's part of the oceanic water cycle. When I see fish in fish markets in Maldives, this was taken just 2 weeks ago when Carrie asked me to step in and become the keynote speaker for this event. These people feed on the protein from the sea. 3 billion people rely on the protein from the sea as their main source of protein. That's not your sushi that you might eat. This is the protein that feeds our world. And so when I look at our ocean and our Great Pacific Ocean, I see one world ocean. It's really quite simple. It gives us oxygen, food, and water. It gives us trade, transportation. Our common heritage as humankind is the ocean. It is our past, our present, and our future. It is incredible when I think about astronauts and scientists looking to the stars. They're looking for frozen water. We shouldn't be called planet Earth. We should be called planet Ocean. And so it's with that thought that I know that collectively we all believe we have to think about what these 3 ladies all mentioned in their speech. And it was, how do we communicate this to the general public? Because we come from the same thought processes. And so the ocean unites us. I have to get this quote right because I thought a lot about this. The ocean is owned by no one. but it belongs to us all. It's incredible how much the ocean has given to each and every one of us. We all know 70% of our planet is covered in ocean. There's 195 countries separating land. 6,500 languages are spoken. And yet, as divers, we speak one universal language when we go below the surface. I can dive with anybody in the world using hand signals, and we are united by a passion. And to think, as world leaders, we are separated with 1 degree of separation. We can probably reach out to anybody within the ocean world and know one another. Yes, this is Michelle Hall. I'm playing hide and seek, and Howard was filming us. 1 degree of separation, potentially. Oprah said there were 7, 1 for our ocean. And that's the problem. We are 8 billion people on the planet, and less than 1% are scuba divers. How crazy is that? And so, for anybody who understands the history of diving, it used to be something that was hard to enter. If you talk to somebody who's older, they wore 25-pound weight belts and had to swim Olympic-sized swimming pools. And it's not accessible. And so my company created children's products to connect youth to the ocean at a time when we weren't targeting youth. I started a dive team, and I had to collaborate with manufacturers, with training agencies, with many other groups, my local dive shop, Underwater Sports. These 10-year-olds and 11-year-olds are now 18, 19, and 20. They all still dive. Jamie is going to go into the Coast Guard in 2 weeks. Elise is going to University of Oregon to study marine mammals and veterinarian science. And then you know Abby Dias. Many people had her in your presentation. You've mentioned her. I met Abby when she was 15 years old, and she didn't dive. I've worked with Abby a long time, and I really love this Our World Underwater organization because of what we put into the next generation. So I couldn't have a presentation without giving you a couple of insights into my underwater backyard. And so this, of course, is a giant Pacific octopus, and I know so much about them because of scientists that I worked with in Lembay Strait, Dr. Roger Hanlon and Dr. Chrissy Hufford. Chrissy was doing her master's program at the time. And here, it's out feeding. I'm going to show you another one because I love cephalopods and everybody wants to know about GPOs. This is at a dive site called Flagstaff, also in my backyard. And these GPOs are male guarding. And so there was a female, and the reason why I know is because 25 years later, I can reach out to Dr. Roger Hanlon and say, hey, I just got this great footage. What's going on? And so it's really important, these connections that we make, you have to know that they're everlasting. So with that said, it is for everybody. My lighting assistants for this shot are 13 years old. They're also my second camera operators a lot. So I was not born into the ocean. This is my backyard when I was a little girl. Which one do you think I am? The one in the water. In the pink, you're right. That is me when I was a little girl. And during the pandemic, I was born and raised in Chicago. I didn't see the ocean until after college. It touched me deep. It really did. So during the pandemic, we transferred 8mm slides or 8mm film into these high-def videos, and we found this gem. So I learned at a young age that I was an adventurous soul, and I had no idea. This is my sister, Kathy. And so I learned one of my like when I look back at this, you have to take calculated risks. And I learned it very young. This is my mother. She's very, very good to all of us. And this is my swimming pool now. This is a baby humpback whale. And I included a little bit about humpback whales because they're a great success story in our world. When you swim, this is about a ton, and they get very playful. The mother rests. They were hunted nearly to extinction. And now, in 1970, we put a whale moratorium on them, and now there's nearly 80,000 whales. Humpback whales. And so it's a really great success story of how a global movement of conservation can protect a species. And when you look into the eye of a mother humpback whale, you see ancient wisdom. They've been on our planet for more than 60 million years. One of my favorite whale scientists once said to me, Annie, if anything goes wrong on our planet, just follow the whales. They know what to do. Today at the Explorer Club, when we were having our tour, we were talking about the sound from the humpback whales, and that there's groups of people working right now together with AI, and their goal is to be able to understand the humpback whales within 5 years. The project started a year and a half ago. Many of you who maybe were around in the 70s, I was a wee lass in a swimming pool, but we sent the sound of the humpback whales to outer space as well, because we don't know what aliens are out there, and maybe they'll be able to understand the sounds of the sea. This was one of the most extraordinary moments I spent in the water in 2019. I was 60 days in Tonga. The king of Tonga declared, when we put a whale moratorium on whaling, that they would no longer hunt humpback whales. They would swim with them. So when we go to Tonga, we could go swimming with humpback whales. And I did quite a few special experiences when I was there. And this subadult wanted to be with us. We couldn't swim away from it fast enough. It's pretty incredible to be with both megaflora and megafauna in the water. And so, with that said, I'd like to keep going. But I'd like to move to another sound. Yeah, I heard some people say it. Yeah, absolutely. Let me hear you say it again. Yeah. Now, if you show a 10-year-old the movie Jaws, they laugh at it. So when Steven Spielberg put the Jaws in the water, it broke the first time. So he had to rewrite that entire script, and those two sounds scared 4 generations of people in the water, and also opened up shark killing all around the water. Now, I'd like to address something that is out of this room. In this room, we love the ocean. It is our life. Out of this room, it is a dark and scary place. And it is someplace that sharks kill you, attack you. It is not accidental that they're doing this because we are mistaken. And I'm mentioning these because this generation no longer has Jaws. They have hungry, hungry sharks. It comes free on Amazon Kindle Fires. It's on Nintendo Switches. If you read these words correctly, it is the official game for Shark Week. And what these sharks do when you play, has anybody played this game? The sharks gain power when they eat people. You can't make this up. Like, this is what's happening right now. And so if we think that we've changed how people view the ocean, I don't know about that. And that's where not the science communication comes into. The communication, including science, but communication is necessary. I look at this image. Some of you know I've been to the Gyre. I was out in the Gyre with 2009. I actually have great hope because when I came back from the Gyre, nobody discussed plastic in the ocean and microplastics. But really, if we got plastics right, think about this. Recycling was introduced when I was in 2nd grade. The problem is the corporations have put the ownership on the individual to recycle. And really, we need to flip the script. We need public awareness to drive corporate and policy change. And so everything we do, we have to think about how we're going to reprogram the messaging that gets out there, because there's a lot of things in the ocean that don't belong. This is creepy baby doll. Yes. And there's a couple of other myths. One of the myths is that the ocean is abundant. And I'd like to talk about that. And I'm not going to dive deep into this. I just want to say that that is a myth. It does not have finite resources. And when we're protecting areas in the ocean, we're protecting them from people. This is a people problem, and only people can be the solution. And so in my life, I've traveled a lot, I've filmed a lot, I've 10,000 dives, more than 10,000 hours underwater. I love being on land. It is easier for me to swim with schools of sharks than it is for me to stand in front of this audience right now. And I think a lot of people feel that way. But I have to shift it, because when you find a place that is truly a gem, you have to talk about it and how it's being protected and introduce it to other people that might not know about this. I'm not sure if you're in the audience, my fellow Nuki diver. Neha? Hi. This is Nuki. And today when we were at lunch, we discussed that we've both been diving in Colombia. I love Colombia. Any other Colombian divers out there? Just one? No. I'll show you the Colombia. I'm talking about the Colombia that's south of here in South America. And it's here. So it's 300 miles off the coast of Colombia, Malpelo. But Nuki is on the Pacific coast. And so I've showed you New York, over British Columbia, Seattle area. So down here, this is where I was a year and a half ago. So 20 years from now, you'll be more disappointed by the things you did than the ones you didn't. 20 years ago, when I was living in Indonesia in Lembeh Strait, there was a guy who came to visit me. He was a French photographer. He had been there, and he had told me about these moray eels that are all over. And last year, I went to Malpelo for my very first time. It was pretty incredible. I have to talk a little bit about Malpelo very, very fast. So Malpelo is an island you might not have heard of. Maybe some of you have heard of it. You've heard of Galapagos and Cocos. Malpelo's 20 million years old. Galapagos is 5 million years old. It has been around a really, really long time. It is part of the Eastern Tropical Pacific Marine Corridor. This is an area that scientists know that sharks migrate. They also migrate to Socorros. As a matter of fact, tagged sharks in this region have gone through 6 economic zones. It's quite incredible. But we're all worried about like our little patches. So this is why nobody has landed on Malpelo. I think that there was a Smithsonian scientific expedition, and they went and people got hurt, they broke their legs trying to get on the island. There is a Navy base on the island with 6 guys that live there, and I was invited onto Malpelo during my time that I was there. I'm jumping ahead in a minute. But this is how they get on and off the island. There is no beach to land on. So it's a pretty rough spot. Economic zone. Colombia's a special country. They have both the Caribbean and they have the Pacific. And so you're gonna love this. I was down in Oregon during the pandemic with a film in a symphony, probably too much information. But guess who was there? Faith Ortons. And Faith was like, Annie, I have a trip to Malpelo next month. You should go. And I was like, okay, sign me up. The next thing I know, I was heading out to Malpelo. Now, the only reason why I had not gone from 20 years ago to when I found out about it is that Malpelo's a really dangerous place, which I'm going to get to in a minute. But I have to show you this. These are the eels that my friend was telling me about. And this happened on my last dive in Malpelo when I was a tourist aboard Captain Tony's boat, the Ferox, which is the name for the Ferox shark, which is a deep sea shark that you can see at this island. And so it is, in my 20 years, and I've lived in Galapagos, I've visited a lot of really great places. I've never seen marine biodiversity in these large aggregations of fish that are around this UNESCO World Heritage Site and National Park. It's incredible. So these moray eels set off this chain reaction. They swim all over. Sometimes you see 20. Neha told me today that she saw 90 in Nuki. I didn't see that. These are like magical moments that you have, and these are real. This is like, wow. I hope you're getting my excitement about this. It's really an incredible place. Only 1 mile. Not the national park, just this island, like 1.6 kilometers. And it goes down 4,000 meters. I'm just gonna wow you with a couple of other shots because it's really important you understand the magnificence of this island. This is the Three Musketeers and D'Artagnan, which is an underwater seamound. And there's a school of fish that lives there that when it's all gathered together, you could literally swim in this school of fish and not see anybody for minutes on end. It's epic. It really, really is. And I'm like scratching my head because like everybody talks about sharks with Malpelo and they don't talk about these massive schools of fish. And if you talk to somebody who's been diving there since the 90s, they say, oh, but the commercial fishermen came and fished it out before it was a UNESCO World Heritage Site, before it was a Columbian National Park. And so I'm even viewing it with this magnificence with a shifted baseline. And so this is Captain Tony, this is the Ferox. Shout out to Faith again, because she's such a good supporter. Blue Green Expeditions has 2 trips to there next year. And it's really, really an incredible place. I went on this as a tourist, and the entire time that I was there diving with Captain Tony, this is Captain Tony, it's a dangerous place because people have died there. He read on Scuba Board about deaths at Malpelo, and he's a retired merchant marine and a Colombian, and he said, I'm gonna make the safest dive boat ever for my country. And he's got a safe boat. And that's one of the reasons why I didn't go there before, because all of the other boats were coming from Panama. And so now Captain Tony has this great boat, and then he kept saying, you need to meet Erica with all your energy, Annie. You need to meet Erica. You need to meet Erica. And this is Erica. I met Erica via WhatsApp. She found out who I was, and she said, Annie, you should come and stay on my boat and document what we're doing because nobody knows what we're doing. And like, Tony said, you're a good person. I believe him. I saw your book. You should come. 3 months later, I was on a plane back to Colombia, and I stayed on Erica's boat with her crew for 76 days. Now, just a little backstory, because I think this is important for all of us in the audience to understand and realize. Jacob was a tourist at 26 years old when he met Erica. Erica was a dive instructor, dive master, dive guide on boats that came from Panama. Her first experience at Malpelo was as a scientific diver. She fell in love with it, had to start being a tour guide so she could go again and again and again, because scientists can't always go into the field as much as dive guides can. So she ended up she's notorious in the region as a dive guide. This is the boat that Jacob raised funding for, because when they went out to chase the illegals away after their shark dives, and they went away, Erica would take Jacob with her. Jacob said, what do you need, Erica? And Erica said, I know exactly what I need. I need a boat 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, here, protecting it from illegal fishers coming from Ecuador and Costa Rica. Not even Colombia, because Colombia doesn't have commercial fishing, and they have very strict fishing laws. So in Erica's words,
this is part of a long line that my crew recovered a few days ago. We go around the island. Our crew is looking for whether boats or buoys from illegals all around the place. If we find a boat, we start asking them to leave the area. And if they do, most part of the time, they just go and let the fishing gear inside the water. What we do is we approach the long line. Our skilled crew with the ranger start taking out the parts of that fishing gear, starting from the buoy, and they start grabbing, holding to these lines, and they cut this line very close to the mouth of the animal, because it's very difficult to put the animal on the boat and take out of the hook. It can take up to 5 to 6 hours to release all the fauna, sometimes even longer. In fact, the animals suffer a lot.
The biggest challenge that we've faced is funding, and we've had significant challenges finding the resources and finding the funds to do our mission.
We don't want to see the reality for what it is, but it's cruelty. It's just another kind of torture to grab animals from the ocean, to mutilate them, and to let them die. The animals feel, they have pain, and the people need to know that they're not just objects without sensations. We are doing our best effort using this catamaran Silky, having all these alliances, staying in this spot the most part of the year possible to protect what we can.
so there's two things I'd like to clarify from the short clip from the film I'm working on about Erica, and it's this. The reason why Jacob raised money and invested, he's from Australia and Mauritius. And the reason why is he believes in grassroots up, and he helped raise the funds through a family foundation and other funders. And she worked with National Parks, the Navy, and ecotourism. It is an amazing collaboration of what happened. And then I've been invited in to be a storyteller with her, because nobody knows about this and what's happening there. And this is a place that we have to protect. Even though it's protected on paper, you still need people to stand up for what's written in the law. And these are the sharks that Erica and Jacob are diving on. They saw the silky sharks for the first time when I was there. And I have to give a shout out to these 5 guys. These are who I lived with when I was on the boat. Erica was there for 8 of my 76 days. That's another story. But this is like, it was incredible. And they are right there, right now, protecting their island 300 miles off the coast of Colombia, living on that catamaran boat. They are fishermen turned conservationists. It's really incredible story. And I carry these with me wherever I go. I have them in my bag upstairs. You guys have been seeing me carrying my bag. I never want to forget. So this is what it looks like from that boat. You are out in the middle of nowhere. And I'm going to play this just for a minute and talk for just a minute. So this is what it's like. You watch the birds, because there's 100,000 birds that are on the island. So the ocean takes care of the birds, right? It's not just people. It's not just the animals in the ocean that need the ocean. It's our marine birds too. And so we follow the birds, and I was lucky enough to dive on a few bait balls. I don't want you thinking that if you go to Malpelo, Annie's saying you're gonna dive on aggregations of silky sharks like this. There is a season. Right now it's very warm there. They haven't had the silkies yet, the season yet, but I've seen my friends posting in Socorros that they have silky sharks. There's not a lot done with the science. There's no scientific papers written on the silky shark migration. So when I was there, I have almost every single scientific paper written about Colombia, and I'm going back in July to be able to interview some of the scientists from the papers that I've been reading. But this, not one shark came close to me. No nips, no bites. This is all natural in the water. And I'm sharing this with you because I could be in the water. Now, was I a little nervous? Of course. You don't dive with hundreds of sharks. You have to be smart. You don't go in the middle of the bait ball. You have to stand back. You can't be stupid. You have to be experienced. There are 5 ocean currents that meet here. But there is still this. There is hope. This is still going on in our world ocean. But it's up to us. It's up to our visions of the sea. And what is the messaging that we put out there? Like, how do we let hungry sharks be the messaging for Shark Week? How crazy is that? How crazy is that? And so this goes back to the scientific communication that you want to do, and I hope you want to do. It's like, but is it science communication? And this is not a dig on science. I'm not saying anything bad about science, but we have to communicate with everybody outside of those walls. We have to break down the barriers. We have to show them our world underwater. And not one person talked about that it's a scary, dark place. As a matter of fact, we're talking about going to depths that we've never dreamed of going and being able to study them in ways we've never been able to do because we're living in a technological revolution. I had to sell my car to buy my first underwater camera housing. How crazy is that? And now we own a movie studio in the palm of our hands, and it's a satellite communication system. Oh my gosh, what is your weapon of choice? So, I have shared with you a couple of my visions of the sea. And I apologize, I just have to do this shout out for Erica because I love her so much. She was inducted into the Women Divers Hall of Fame at BTS, and the Women Divers Hall of Fame supports many young scholars. I know I talked to some of you who are scholarship recipients. What we didn't know, what I didn't know, was after I left, Erica was awarded a small grant from Rolex as well. And so I have to give a round of applause again to Rolex. I know everybody has said this, but so much. They have so many ties to the ocean, and this is a real conservation happening. And she was able to refab and do some much needed work on the boat because of damage. Imagine having, I didn't even show you how like the seas are out there, and that boat's out there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So this is 7 generations of women empowerment standing behind me. We are responsible for 7 generations in front of us. I never go away if I go to speak. When I go to dive, I don't do this, but I'm wearing the power of my great-grandmothers on my hands. I come from a matrilineal. I live in an area that the orcas are matrilineal. When I look at the ocean, it is my mother, my lover, my best friend. It is my visions of the sea that I never dreamed of having when I was that little girl in a backyard in Chicago, because there was no messaging about the ocean. Jacques Cousteau. We didn't even have Jacques Cousteau. I know that sounds crazy. I learned Jacques Cousteau later in life. And so, I'm going to challenge you all. You've patiently listened to me tonight. When you leave here, It is the connections that we make, yes, within one another in the underwater world, but it is taking these messages and bringing them to the masses. Yes, we have World Oceans Week happening in New York, but it is your PTAs, your Rotaries, your local schools, all of your local schools, high schools, grammar schools, the entire district would like to hear you speak. I guarantee it. And your parents would be really proud if you went back to your schools too. It's incredible. What are you waiting for? This is the device that unites us. What are we gonna put out there on our messages? What are you gonna say? There is one thing that I've learned from all of science, and it is this. And it might make you feel better. The ocean will be okay without us. It's gonna recycle itself in 1 million years. But we will not be okay without a healthy ocean. Planet Ocean is us. And so you don't have to be great to get started, but you do have to get started to be great. So turn to somebody next to you. And if you don't have anybody next to you, look me in the eyes. Look me in the eyes. So turn to your neighbor and say, I see greatness in you. I see your vision. I see your vision. I see your vision of the sea. Our world underwater is what unites us. But now we have to unite it with the rest of the world because they're still thinking the ocean is a dark, scary place. And so, if not you, who? If not now, when? Everything we do on land impacts our ocean. Our ocean is our life source. Our ocean is us. Thank you very much for listening. One more. Every time you breathe, you are connected to the ocean. Breathe in. Breathe out. That is our ocean that gives us life. Thank you very much.
So, Miss Annie is one more thing to share, and she would like us to ask her who she would like to collaborate with.
Everyone, right? Everyone, all
Millie,
of us, we're
Millie's got this.
co-creators. Co-creators. No, how do you know? You took mine.
Annie, thank you very much for your presentation, your many, many years of support of the Society. One more time for Annie, please.
And now I would like to invite the incoming scholars to the stage. One of my duties as president is to represent the officers and directors of the Society as the awarding official of the Society scholarships. This moment is especially meaningful to me as the 2003 North American Scholar. So at this time, I officially present the Society's 2023 scholarships to Janice V. Grisby, the 2023 North American Scholar. And Lucy Penny, the 2023 European Scholar. and Sophie Kalkowski-Pope, the 2023 Australasian Scholar. To everyone with us today, I present to you the 2023 Scholars of the Our World Underwater Scholarship Society. Now, in addition to presenting them with a medal that they must always bring back with them to our annual meeting, there are a few other things they will receive. First, I am responsible for providing each scholar with their credentials in the form of a presidential letter of introduction. Actually, all scholars and interns receive a similar introductory letter to share with hosts and sponsors, personalized for the individual. The scholars also will now receive their framed certificates. Ooh, yeah. And lastly, one more thing that you get to carry around with you tonight. The scholars also receive their society expeditionary flags to carry with them throughout the year. So flag number 20 will travel this year with the North American Rolex Scholar. Flag number 16 will travel this year with the European Rolex Scholar. And flag number 17 will travel this year with the Australasian Rolex Scholar. And now I'd like to welcome each scholar to come forward and introduce themselves. Let's start with the North American Scholar.
Oh my God. Okay, can everyone hear me? Oh my goodness, this is really nerve-wracking. I see nobody. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead. Hello, everyone. My name is Janice Grisby, and I'm from a small town in Northern California, USA. I have been scuba certified for a little less than 2 years now, and it's honestly been such a wild ride for me to get to this point. For years, I've been working multiple jobs, just trying to support myself, as well as my love for scuba diving, and finally finishing my undergrad next week, actually. And thank you. And starting this amazing experience with you all is just mind-blowing to me. Throughout this year, I look forward to gaining experiences in shark conservation. Annie, where are you? Annie. Polar exploration, as well as just coastal community outreach. And I'm also just looking forward to finally being able to put 100% of my time and energy into what I love. And so thank you to the Our World Underwater Scholarship Society, our sponsor Rolex, my coordinators Anya and Allison for their guidance, and of course my friends and family back home. I want to give a super special thank you to my mom, who obviously did an amazing job raising me. My PI, Tessa Hill, who helped me become the marine scientist I am today, as well as my dive instructor, Dr. Klaus Van Bentham, who also helped me become the diver that I am today. And I want to give a super, super special thank you to my little sister, Ava, who really wanted me to mention her in this speech. And so with all that being said, I am incredibly honored and excited to be your 2023 North American Scholar. Thank you so much.
I'll lower the microphone. Hi, I'm Lucy, the European Scholar, or the little one of 2023. I'm from southwest England, kind of like near Cornwall and Devon, where I'm currently studying my child and adult nursing degree. I know this is like a slightly different approach to the scholarship, but I have an interest in dive medicine, but especially in like remote locations. And I'm kind of hoping to use the scholarship to build a skill set to become a key member on diving expeditions. And then the other side of it is kind of when working on the children's wards, I've helped care for a lot of teenagers with poor mental and physical health. So I kind of really want to use the scholarship to help the younger generation kind of reconnect with the ocean and just find this like absolute joy for being back in nature. I feel very lucky to be surrounded by such a kind, generous, and just knowledgeable group of people this year. And I just want to say a big thank you to the Our World Underwater Scholarship Society and Rolex for this incredible opportunity. And to the amazing and lovely EU team, we've got Jade, we've got Felix, we've got Rich, and Jim Sanding, Jim's helped so much, so I'm really sorry, Jim. And I feel like there's a lot more thank yous. But also to my family and friends that have shown so much just love and support. I've got some earrings in from my nanny and a necklace from my friends as they couldn't make it today. But the presentations from today and your guys' amazing videos is just so inspiring, and I'm really looking forward to this year, and just like a massive thank you. There we go.
Time to raise the mic again. Good evening, everyone, or should I say, g'day, mate. My name is Sophie Kalkowski-Pope, and I have to say it is the honour of my lifetime to be standing in front of you as the 2023 Australasian Scholar of the Our World Underwater Scholarship Society. I grew up in Cairns, a small regional town in Northern Australia. Here, in 2017, I witnessed the mass coral bleaching events on my local islands on the Great Barrier Reef. Ever since, I have been driven to find innovative new ways to protect our oceans and inspire people about the beauty of our natural world. I can't believe what an incredible year we have ahead of us. I'm just graduating from my undergraduate degree, like Janice. We've both got exams coming up. Throughout my scholarship year, I hope to explore themes of science communication, scientific diving, and different career paths in our underwater world. It's my goal to become a more effective advocate for our oceans. To the Our World Underwater Scholarship Society, our sponsors at Rolex, all of the gear sponsors, our equipment sponsors, and all of the countless volunteers that make this organization what it is, thank you for this life-changing opportunity. To my coordinator, Joanna Smart, and Stefan Andrews, the Australasian VP, thank you for your time, advice, and knowledge. And finally, to my family and friends, thank you for always encouraging me and inspiring my love of the oceans right from the beginning. It's incredible to think this journey has already taken me 23 hours, halfway around the world, and to a room full of such talented and inspiring people. I can't wait to see where the rest of our year takes us. Thank you.
Janice just said, what happens if we lose this?
I don't plan on it, but what if?
We'll cross that bridge when we get there. 20 years ago, I was setting off on my own journey as a scholar, as was Vice President of European Operations, Dr. Jade Berman. The experiences and connections made during that year still reverberate with me today, as I'm sure they will for all of you. Janice, Lucy, and Sophie, I wish you all the best on this upcoming year and look forward to supporting you in whatever way I can. And now I'll turn it back over to Vin.
Before we wrap up this evening, there are a couple more groups of people that should be recognized. I'd like to ask all of the past scholars and interns who are with us this evening, please stand up. Thank you for being with us tonight. I would also like to recognize the current directors. Hey, quiet down there. You can't bring these people anywhere. I would also like to recognize the current directors and officers of the Society. Would you please stand up? Thank you. So, as is the case, we always have change. And for this year, due to term limits, Allison Labonte and I are ending our time at the board. Yesterday, during the Society's board meeting, elections were held for directors and officers, and at the conclusion of tonight's events, they will begin their new terms. As I call your name, please stand. Newly elected to the board of directors are Anja Hansen and Anna Sofia Guerra. Stephan Andrews was elected for a second term as director. And Patty Siri was elected as the new chair of the board. Elections were also held for the vice presidents. For Vice President of North American Operations, Robin McFadden Parrish was elected. Vice President of European Operations, Jade Berman. Vice President of Australasian Operations, Stephan Andrews. And Vice President of Internships, Claire Mullaney. Elections were also held for Assistant Treasurer and Secretary. Assistant Treasurer, Martha Sanders. And Secretary, Dee Malkowski. Congratulations and thank you to the new directors and officers. As the evening is coming to an end, there's one final round of thank yous. The Society has come a long way from our start in Chicago, growing and expanding, moving here to New York in 2005. We have chosen our annual weekend in June in conjunction with World Oceans Week. In 2024, we will again meet in June, and this time for our 50th anniversary. We look forward to welcoming back even more alumni, hosts, and sponsors, and are planning on extra activities to commemorate this incredible milestone. To our incoming class of 23 interns and scholars, I charge you to make the most of your time in the coming year, to take maximum advantage of these opportunities which have been awarded to you, and commit yourself to be professional and gracious ambassadors of the Our World Underwater Scholarship Society during your travels. On behalf of the Board of Directors and officers, the scholars, and the interns, I want to thank everyone around the world who sponsors hosts and volunteers to keep the Society moving forward for the past 49 years. We could not have done it without you and without your unwavering moral and financial support. And I know that we can depend on you to keep the Society going for many years to come. Thank you and good night.